Why you want to do this for people?
It has to do with my youth, and I realized in life that it's so essential what happens to us at the beginning of our life. And being that I was born in Sicily, and I was 14 when I came here in 1947, so I don't need to say that I had a very strong father. So strong to the point where for 20 years, whatever I did wasn't any good. In other words, I grew up with the mentality that I wasn't too bright, let's put it this way. But something else happened that stayed with me, which when we're young, yeah, things happen to us, but we don't pay any attention because we are being taught that's nonsense. I recall one time walking in my little hometown, which is this little hometown in Sicily, and all of a sudden I felt this experience, I guess you could call it, because I didn't know what to call it then. Matter of fact, I didn't tell anybody. I don't even think I ever told my mother and father, and they're gone now. And I had this kind of experience of like as if I was inside of a womb of somebody, or and as if that was the world, and vice versa. In other words, everything is inside everything else. And I noticed at that time that it was a certain kind of peace came to me, like that I was part of the universe, like, and the universe was part of me. So I and the universe were one. But I can only explain that now that I'm a different age. But then I didn't know what it was. I never paid attention to it, matter of fact. I disregarded it, I didn't tell anybody. But it stayed in my mind. It stayed there, and as I grew older, it went back to it and trying to figure out what was,
Mm-hmm.
what was that took place. So I presume there was something nice about that, and it stayed with me, and I guess unknowingly it helped me to question things about life, and that's, I think it's very important to know that certain things happen to us when we're young and we don't know what it is and we're afraid to tell anybody. But if you feel comfortable, let it be there. Don't throw it away. You know, keep on being in touch with it. So the other thing that helped me a lot was my mom. My mom took the place of my father not being so nice to me. She did the opposite. She let's call it, did more things with me than my sister and my brother. I got to be honest, because of the minus that I had with my father. So the whole idea here is that when do we become ourselves? I think that's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter, and it matters what happens to us. So I think what I'm trying to say is keep the good stuff that happens to you when you're young, but let go of the stuff that wasn't so good for you when you're young. Because if you hang on to it, it doesn't do much good except not allowing you to enjoy life, and that's foolish. That's a high price to pay. And that's one of the reasons why I really want to do this, especially for youth, so they can see the possibilities at a young age of what life is about and how it works. And we're going to show who we really are, because I was confused for quite a while, I must say, about who I was, being that my father was as severe as he was with me. So I was kind of, and you have to believe your parents, because those are the first ones in your life that you trust, quote unquote, just like we trust God, whoever God is to you. And if you have the wrong, let's call it, response from those people that you trust, then you believe it that they're right and you're wrong, and you go on in life thinking. For instance, if I thought that my father thought that I was stupid, so all my life I thought I was stupid, and I was trying always to do things to prove different that I wasn't, and that's very pressure, stress on you. Trying to prove yourself all the time. So we came to this country in '47, and um, and I did everything else that I could to help the family. In those days, everybody worked for the family. I didn't finish high school. I had, I think, a year to go, and my father said, "Well, you got to go to work." So I did, and he says, "You go to night school." So I did for about 3, 4 months, and I was falling asleep in the class because I was tired. So that was the end of that. So I got my high school diploma when I was 40 years old, believe it or not. But the main thing that I'm trying to get across is you need to be honest with yourself and don't allow anybody to dictate to you or to um, manipulate you. Or what's the word I'm looking for? To, I think I need to say brainwash you, because at a young age it's very easy for anybody to do that. And I'm going to include with a little bit of skepticism here, but I'm taking a chance. And life is about all. You're taking chances. And especially and including religion, which I will show you later on why do I say what I'm saying about brainwashed, about religion. And I'm talking about anything. So I feel strongly now more on a basis of spirituality instead of religion. Because truly speaking, when I went in the army, in the U.S. Army, in '55, I think it was, and I went to Germany, I started as a cook, and I ended up being a chaplain assistant for an Italian priest, Catholic. And I learned a lot what not to be. And you say, well, that's not the religion. It was just one priest who was the way he was, and that doesn't mean that's the way the religion is, which is true. But at the same time, what other ways do you have at a certain age to to um to hang your head on? I mean, except what's happening to you at the moment. So I because of that, I think I began to shy away from organized religion as a whole. Um, wow, what came to my mind is incredible. That at one time I was one of those who didn't like Jewish people, and I don't need to explain it. Being brought up as a Catholic, I always thought, or being taught that they killed Jesus, and like what other reason? And they love money, all that kind of stuff was in my head. And I was already married when my first time, and one time my son who's 36 now. At that time was a teenager. And I said, if my son will come to me and say, Dad, I'm in love with two girls. One is black and one is Jewish. Who do I marry? And I said, automatically, quickly, no problem, marry the black. Because I'm colorblind when it comes to that, not the Jewish girl. But I noticed that within my head, I wasn't comfortable with that kind of attitude about it. And I really prayed. I talked within myself, and whatever you want to call it, to the guy or to God, to she, he, God. And I said, you got to help me. At that time, I didn't know about he, she. I must say, I prayed to God. And I said, you got to help me about this, because I'm not comfortable feeling the way I do. And believe it or not, he sent me, my wife now was actually Jewish with 2 children. So the joke about my wife with me is, you better watch what you wishing for, you might get it. So I got it. And I'm very happy that I got it. As a matter of fact, it has changed my life. At this point, I need to say that my wife, Sima, she's not here. I could say this because whenever I say this, when she's around, she gets uncomfortable. I strongly believe that she's the closest to God that we'll ever experience in this physical world. Matter of fact, she actually lives what I trying to get across. with my lectures and seminars. She lives 100%. So she's a perfect example what's possible, what I'm trying to show you later on. In business, at home, anywhere, she's always at a spiritual level, and it's unbelievable. It's like, I always, the whole time, whenever I want to give an example, and I says, I can't use you as an example because you're not normal.
We'll definitely interview her later.
You know, and she laughs at it because she takes it in a different kind of manner. And she's not what I call human level, you know. We'll talk about that later on. So it's very important for me to do this for my life before I die. I want to do and accomplish this. Is that to make young people realize that we have lots and lots of possibilities. But we need at least, what I'm trying to do, give the information. I know some people will say, yeah, but they're too young. Nobody is too young about information. And I think the way society is today, that the young people more than anybody else, thank goodness, that they're really looking for a way of celebrating life. And the only way they have found so far is in the drinking, in the drugs, and racism, and so on and so forth, which is very destructive. So you could celebrate life in such a manner, though, that the cost is your life. And that, to me, it's nonsense. It just doesn't work. So what I'm trying to get at is spirituality. I have found, I'm going to be 68 in December, this December. I have found that it really is where people can come together and celebrate life in the most natural way, let's call it. So you could be happy without all the rest of that stuff, the drugs and the drinking, and putting other people down. What else can I say? Okay, so I'll go back to when we were in the army.
Okay, oh wait, hold on. We'll cut right there for a minute.
Okay, we go back a bit now here to when I came out of the service. And I also need to say that about my dad, that he was physical besides mental with me and with my mom. So what's important here to let you see that I'm not coming from a flowery kind of teenage kind of a going on here. So I went through what some of you going through possibly. And I want you to know there's something that you can do about it. And that's my whole point, what it is that I want to do about it, why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I came from the army, and I'm living at home from Germany, and I didn't have a profession, and I chose to be a hairdresser. Now I'm going to let you laugh a little bit before give you the other serious stuff. When I met my wife, Maisima, now, being that she's Jewish and I'm Italian, she asked me, she says to me, I don't understand, you don't look like a hairdresser, you don't act like a hairdresser, what made you become a hairdresser? And I said to her, promise me that you won't laugh. And she says, okay, I won't laugh. No, okay, I'll tell you. I said, I was young and foolish, and I wanted to be with girls. That's why I chose hairdressing. It had nothing to do with hair whatsoever. And that's the God's honest truth. So my Simma, being who she is, with that great sense of humor that she has, she says to me, well, okay, she says, but it's a shame that your father was Italian. If he was Jewish, you would have been a gynecologist. So coming out of the army, I go to school on the GI Bill, and I graduate, then I go to work. I went to work, I think, for about 2 years for somebody. Then I went to open my own salon, and I needed, at the time we lived in Brooklyn, I wanted to open a salon in Manhattan. And I needed a loan to get a GI loan for pay for the salon. It was $9,000 at that time. And I needed my father to co-sign it. And I always remember we're in the kitchen. It was me, him, and my mom in the kitchen. I'm laughing because it's not going to be laughable because it's very serious and it's like edgy on me already. And he's trying to tell me that he needs a note from me before he would co-sign for the bank. So he's trying to give me excuses and reasons so for the same thing that he was not trusting me that I could make a go at it, so he wouldn't be jeopardizing the house with the bank and so on, so on, so forth. Naturally, my mom, the words getting louder. Naturally, my mom, as usual, she's trying to get in between and to make peace so we wouldn't argue and so on and so forth. And she did the same thing at this time, and then my father gets up, and I'm thinking, he's going to hit her, because he doesn't want her to interfere as usual. So now I'm 23, I went in the army and all this, so I got up with the idea to stop him, not to. But in the meantime, he thinks that I'm going after him, and he hits me right at the temple. So I went kind of woozy. At this point, all the 22, 23 years of anger that I had within me, it came out. And I need to say that he was not able to get out of the house for 2 weeks. So I had to run away from home, because if I stayed there, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. I gotta be honest about it. And at that time, I was going with my first wife that I met in school, hairdressing. So I went to live with her, because she was separated, and I'm divorced with a child, with a boy. And I went to live with her, but I need to say that 2 weeks later, I went to Brooklyn, to my father's house, and I apologized to him. Wow. I thought it was over with. We had the best relationship after that. Isn't that incredible that it took that kind of force for him to see something about me that he never seen before? We really did. We had the best relationship. And what happened though, which is very important, when things go bad, if you look at it in a very precise way, is that something good comes out of it. And let me show you what I mean by that. In my head, I said to myself, the reason why I went back there within those 2 weeks, because I realized that I didn't hit my father, because you can't hit your father and your mother. I mean, they created you, you're here because of them. But I hit a man whose thinking was to stop me from having a living. And having that clear in my head in that kind of manner made a big difference for me to be okay with me. So I had a fight with a man, not my father, but with a man whose thinking was to stop my growth, quote unquote. And later on, also in life, I took some training that used to be called the S training. Now it's called the Forum training, and that really helped me, I must say truly, which is on awareness. And we did an exercise, and the exercise was about make believe that the other person is your child, and you're the father, and so on and so forth. And I thought about my David now, and I was talking to him to the syllabus, make believe of my son, as strict as my father would talk to me when I was a youngster. And I said, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing that he was doing to me. And I know I love my David. Then it dawned on me, and I said, oh my God, that means my father did love me, except was in his way, not the way I wanted him to love me. So that got very clear in my head about my relationship with him, even when I was young, that he loved me in his way, not the way I wanted him to. And the other thing that I got in that training was that the real father, I said to myself, is God. Upstairs. So he's the real father, but he's my father on the earth here because he went to bed with my mother, and and I came out of it. So, but my real father, I said to myself, is God, and he's my earthly father is my father, who has problems, like any other man have problems, or any other person has problems, and he didn't know how to cope with it, no doubts, and he handles life the way he handles life. And from that moment on, I really realized it's time to go on with my life, and put that behind, and make sure that I don't do the same mistakes that he did, and go on. And really has been very helpful to me on the matter of having a life of my own with my married and so on and so forth. But at the same time, what is important here to really get the message that people come into our lives, at especially at a young age, and they could destroy our life if we allow it. But the whole essence here, I'm going to show you later on how we think the way we think. And because the way we think is we're in trouble, that we're not able to clean up whatever it is to be cleaned on the basis of the way we're being programmed when we were young. So what does that mean? And a very simple reason is that if you find out who you really are, who we really are, not who we think we are, that's what makes the difference. That's what made the difference for me. Working with people for 40 years doing hair, then I took a course in hypnotherapy, and I have done some of that work too. But mostly I have worked on the success is you concept while I was doing hair that helped me change around my life on doing hair, because I realized that it took one customer a day for me to be miserable all day long. And I noticed that was not the way I wanted it. So I dropped the titles. The titles means the customer was a human being, and I dropped my title. And I was a hairdresser second, just like the customer second, but I was always Vincent the person. So I began a whole different approach in hairdressing and do the greatest consultation one-on-one with the customer, but talking to me like talking to you at this point, you know, in the same kind of manner, person to person. Then I have the knowledge of hairdressing, but at the same time I need to know what you need to have so I can fulfill your needs, and then we both be happy. So I play the game, what's called a win-win game, not a win-lose game. For instance, I'll give an example. I used to do before that, I did your hair the way I wanted it, so I got the satisfaction of doing your hair the way I wanted it. I got paid, but you didn't come back. So I got what I wanted, but I lost the customer. Instead, with the other concept, it's very simple on the win-win level, is that we both got what we wanted, and also I got paid, and you came back, and you brought me back another customer because they liked what I did. So that's the beauty of life. We need to play the game of life on a win-win basis, not a win-lose basis. Win-lose is a sport game. It's not the rules of the life. Life game rules is a win-win, not a win-lose. Also in life, we play the game, I'm right, you're wrong. And that's the reason why we have so many problems, because we play the game of life with the wrong rules, with the sport rules. Besides finding out who we really are, we also need to know how to play the game of life with the right rules, which is natural laws, natural rules. Win-win. I win, you win.
Okay, I'm gonna cut there.
I win. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I put the paper there and I'm washing it now. Isn't that incredible? Okay. Because, so, to close this whole conversation about what has happened to me in my life, because of what has happened to me, it is important that I bring this across. That is my motivation, to bring it across to children all over the world, so they have a head start. Let's call it a head start. And if nothing else, I can understand that some people might say, well, it's not going to be easy for them to understand that who are you and this and that. But I strongly believe that you need to give the information out. Let them have the information, and possibly, maybe, no impact will happen at that moment, at that age. But it's stored in their mind, the information, and somehow, somewhere along the way, I know that will show up when it's needed. And that's what's so essential, is to have the information. And again, it's, who are you? That's the whole essence. I mean, we're going to the moon and back, and still we don't know who we are. We don't know how we function. And very simply, we are a human and a being. We are both. The only difference here that I'm trying to get across is, but who is the real you? Who is the real I is the word. I am. When we say I am, who is that? The human or the being? Cannot be the human, because the human is on the negative side. It's got to be the being. So the only thing we're doing here is making the being in charge of your decisions, the spirit of your decisions, the God within you, whatever the God is for you. So you can prevent problems, and if you got into a problem when your human was in charge, because you didn't realize it that it was in charge, then if you're looking for an answer to that problem that is happening to you, you cannot look at it at a human level, because it will give you an excuse. So you need to know that. It's being aware, I think, what I'm trying to get across. Being aware of who's in charge of your life is what makes the difference. And within that, then the whole ball starts rolling. And we'll show you a system how to get into it, being aware of who's in charge of your life, the human or the being. It's that simple.
Okay.
Know the laws of nature. In other words, we think that we are in charge of life. We're not in charge of life at a human level. The only time we are in charge is when we are at a being level, at a spirit level, because at that level, nature and us are one. That's the beauty that we need to discover. And that's where we need to be. And you say, well, how can you be there all the time? I didn't say all the time. But whatever, as often as you can, because that's where paradise is. That's where heaven is. That's where you meet heaven, you meet nature, you meet all the laws, super duper, whatever you want to call it, that you can become, is at a being level, at a spirit, not at a human level. At a human level is only an experience, and it changes completely. Almost every second, everything changes, including us. And that's wonderful, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to experience life. So that's why we're human, to experience life. But we need to see who's in charge of our life. That's the difference. That's the beauty. That's where love is, at a being level. That's where all the joy is, at a being level. And within that, you're beginning to have control of your life also. See, at a human level, you don't have control. That's why we always say that things happen to us. They happen to us because we're not in control. We are the human, so we have an excuse to say, well, look what happened to me. You know, there is a saying, wonderful saying. There's this, how come when shit hits the fan, you're always around? There must be something to be said about that. How come you're always around when shit hits the fan? It's
True.
Oof.
Rolling and action.
Okay. I just want you to know that life is a game. So I have a whistle here, and I'm a coach, and you're going to be the player. Is that okay? And we're going to start the game. See? And the program is called Success is You. The reason why I call it Success is You, because I realized that the word success in Italian is said successo, which means the past tense of succedere. That actually also means that it has happened.
What's so interesting about it, as I worked in this program, I realized the value of that word. That means